Dead by Daylight is one of the most interesting and unique multiplayer games on the market right now compared to everything else that is super popular between Fortnite, Warzone, Rocket League, things like that. Dead by Daylight really sets itself apart, and it's because of what this video game actually is. Dead by Daylight is an asymmetrical multiplayer horror game, which if all that technical mumbo jumbo confuses you like it does a lot of people, what that actually means is that Dead by Daylight is a 4v1 horror game where 4 people will play as survivors and try to escape the match, whereas one person will play as one of the many killers in this game and try to kill all the survivors. Now, an asymmetrical game may not seem all that groundbreaking these days, there's tons of them on the market, but when Dead by Daylight released back in 2016, it was one of the few games that actually utilized this style of gameplay, let alone one of the only competitive multiplayer horror games on the market, so it would be an understatement to say that this game was niche at the time of its launch. But here we are today in 2022, and Dead by Daylight is still thriving and coming up on its 6th anniversary, which is why I'm here today to help answer the question of should you be playing Dead by Daylight in 2022. Now, being that this game has been around for 6 years means it must be doing something right, especially because there have been many games trying to lay claim to a piece of the asymmetrical multiplayer genre. Like I said, in 2016, Dead by Daylight was something very unique, and while it still arguably is, there have been many games over the years that try to use DBD's formula and create something new, such as the Friday the 13th game, which has since shut down, and Predator Hunting Grounds. So why, when big IPs such as Friday the 13th and Predator have their own take on this particular genre, does Dead by Daylight remain so successful? Well, I think there are a handful of reasons, but the first and the biggest one that really comes to mind when I think about Dead by Daylight is the simplicity of its gameplay loop. This game, at its core, has a very easy to grasp concept and gameplay structure. If you choose to play as one of the survivors, you will work with 3 other survivors in locating and repairing 5 generators scattered throughout the game's many maps in order to turn the power on and escape the match, all while avoiding the killer, whose sole purpose is to find the survivors and prevent them from completing the previously mentioned generators and escaping. They do this by attacking them, placing them on hooks scattered throughout the map, and eventually killing them. Easy enough for anyone to pick up and immediately understand what is supposed to be done in each game, which makes this game fairly accessible to newcomers. Now, there is a lot more complexity if this is something that you're looking for in this game, because there are character perks, different killers and their respective powers, and player skill levels on either the survivor or the killer side of things, but those are all things you learn as you continue to play Dead by Daylight and are not necessarily something you need to know off the bat in order to start playing and enjoying the game. On top of that, there are the options of hopping in with friends across any platform, because crossplay is a feature in Dead by Daylight, plus the ability to make custom lobbies and play with your friends, and one play as killer, a bunch play as survivors, and swap between those roles adds a lot of variability to having parties and groups of people you're playing this game, which is a bonus. Another thing that I think really helps Dead by Daylight is the fact that it is two-sided in the way that it is versus the survivors and the killers. I feel that because of this and because each role plays so differently, it gives a lot of replayability. For example, if you play a ton of Survivor, maybe you consider yourself a Survivor main, and you get bored of that, switching to Killer continues to allow you to play Dead by Daylight and progress your characters while still having a totally different experience from what you would get from playing a Survivor game. So it helps with a lot of the burnout from playing one particular role too much. Especially when you look at the variety of killers and their powers, this gives a lot of different variation even on the killer side. Before you would even probably start to feel burnout, you could just change your killer and change the way you're playing to kind of keep yourself interested and keep yourself moving forward before you're like, okay, now I need to switch over to Survivor and just kind of change things up a bit. The next thing that I feel makes Dead by Daylight such a success is their partnerships with big names in the horror genre. Over 6 years of DBD's life, there have been many new killers and survivors added to the game through DLC packs known as chapters that come with new perks, maps, and things of that nature that can change the gameplay and loop and meta of the game. Now, while some of these new characters are completely original and they only exist within Dead by Daylight's universe, some are from big horror franchises. For example, on the horror movies side of things, Dead by Daylight has characters like Michael Myers and Laurie Strode from Halloween. They have Freddy from Nightmare on Elm Street. They have the Cannibal from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But it's not just movies that DBD pulls from. They also have partnerships with video game characters like Nemesis, Leon, and Jill from Resident Evil, and Pyramid Head from Silent Hill. These big names allow horror fans to play as some of their favorite characters from different horror franchises all in one place, which gives DBD a huge advantage over other games of this nature that only focus on one particular franchise or character. The third thing I feel DBD has going for it are the DLC and content updates, we get throughout the year. The DLCs focus on new character releases specifically, whereas content updates can add things like new maps, character changes, buffs, nerfs, and in-game events, and this cycle of new content keeps people excited and looking forward to what's next. Like I mentioned, a lot of these character packs and DLC packs contain these licensed characters, which is very exciting to see some of your favorite characters be brought into this light, while also getting new maps and environments to explore and play this game in is very, very exciting. And the constant addition of new perks and things of that nature, changing the metagame, keeps things fresh and keeps things interesting. A lot of different builds that you can try on your different characters gives you a reason to keep coming back and, experimenting with the playstyle of the game. Finally, for better or for worse, Dead by Daylight has a very passionate community, and in some instances, this produces a lot of positivity and things like the video you are watching right now, where people just enjoy the game and want to talk about this game, play it, and experience it with other members of the community. But like every game, some fans' passion turns into frustration with changes, removal of certain features, addition of certain features, things of that nature, and that can all spawn a lot of toxicity, on top of the fact that this is a competitive game that always breeds some toxicity in players that really want to compete at high levels. It creates that battle. So if you're taking to the internet to find any more information regarding this game and see some pretty conflicting stances, just remember the fact that opinions are like assholes and everyone's got one. Ultimately, I feel like you should be basing your opinions on this game on gameplay that you see, if you find it interesting or not, and then your own actual gameplay experiences. So to answer the question we started the video with, should you be playing Dead by Daylight in 2022? I personally have to argue yes. This is one of my favorite games to play, simply because its game mode is super fun, and the variety of characters, maps, make each game feel very unique and different from the previous one you played. Each killer feels very unique in their own ways. They all play very differently from one another, and that gives this sense of change each match based on what killer you're going up against, what environment you're in based on the map you're playing, the different perks that everyone brings, and all that stuff. So it just feels very fun going into each match not knowing what to expect. And then there's also the fact that I'm a horror fan, and having all these characters and killers from movies and video games that I love all in one shared space, like some sort of horror MCU, is a dream come true for me. Seeing all these characters together and being able to see, how Leon would fare against Michael Myers is something that's super, super fun to me, and something that I appreciate every time we get a new licensed killer. So if you are interested in trying out Dead by Daylight for yourself, it is available on all consoles and PC on the Epic Game Store, as well as Xbox Game Pass. And it and its DLCs are constantly on sale. You can pretty much always catch Dead by Daylight on sale to some capacity, whether it's the base game, the special edition version, or the ultimate edition. There's constant sales going on for this game, so you can usually pick it up at a pretty reasonable price. However, that is all I have for you guys today. And this is the first video on this channel, so help me out. If any of you found this entertaining or helpful, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know if you are going to hop in, start playing DBD. If you used to play DBD and are thinking about getting back into DBD, let me know all that fun stuff in the comments below. And if you want to see more Dead by Daylight content from me in the future, be sure to subscribe. But until the next video, I will see you all in the fog.